Welcome to a special edition of the Full FX Unfiltered. My name is Colin Lambert, publisher of the Full FX, and this edition is in association with A Leg to Stand On. And I'm delighted to be joined by Mead Welles, who is co-founder of A Leg to Stand On. Mead, thanks very much for joining me today.
Colin, thank you very much for having me.
No problems at all. You're celebrating 20 years of Rocktoberfest, which is, I guess, the headline act for A Leg to Stand On. But could you just explain to me, what is A Leg to Stand On and the work it does?
Sure, Colin. A Leg to Stand On is a registered 501c3 charity, which is in the United States a tax-exempt organization that provides free corrective surgery and artificial limbs, as well as walking devices, aids like braces and wheelchairs, various types of mobility devices, to children that have limb disabilities in developing countries. We provide the services from the ages of birth until today. We're working up to 24 years old. And we've helped over 22,000 children around the world in over 10 different countries where we have operations.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's nice to see the financial industry, actually doing this sort of work. How did it actually start? How did you get A Leg to Stand On going?
So I actually was traveling a lot when I first started Octagon Asset Management, my fund management business. And I was traveling to emerging markets where we do a lot of our work. We provide financing to exporters and importers around the world. So we would get called by companies in Thailand, in the Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, China, Latin America, the Middle East, Africa. So on these trips, I would fly over to Asia, and I was just launching the business, and I was trying to be judicious about spending. So what I would do is I would plan the trip. So I would land in a city after an overnight flight. I would go and change into my suit in the airport bathroom, take transportation into downtown, let's say Manila in the Philippines,
Yep.
Have my day of meetings, and then I'd go back to the airport, change into casual clothes, get on a flight, and fly overnight to Bangkok. Again, change into business attire, go into the city and have my meetings, return to the airport, get into casual clothes, and fly overnight to the next destination. And after 4 or 5 nights of this, I was very tired.
Yes.
And I ended up in Jakarta. I checked into my hotel after the full day of meetings, and I was just so grateful to have a shower and a bed, and got into casual clothes and went to go get dinner on at an outdoor restaurant. As I was sitting there, I was kind of thinking about how difficult, physically challenging this was. And I was trying to start this business coming out of the United States, having had a great education, having had a great experience on Wall Street. And I had all these opportunities, but I was having a self-pity party about how hard it was for me to try to build this business on a very tight budget, and would it ever be successful? And I couldn't wait until the day where I didn't have to worry about spending on these expenses. I could kind of have a very lavish expense account. And while feeling sorry for myself, no sooner did 2 boys come walking by the outdoor patio of the restaurant, and they both had ropes in their hands that were tied to an upside down garbage can lid. And on that garbage can lid was a 3rd boy, quite a bit younger, maybe 7, 8 years old. And the expression on the boy's face was actually lifeless. It was void of any emotion. It was almost like a deep somber. The boy's hands were covered in scars and scabs and blood and dirt. And as they went by, you could see that his legs were actually bent the opposite way. So normally our knees will bend forward, yeah, and the heel will come up to our rear. His knees actually bent backwards like a chicken. And so his feet came forward. And on top of that, his feet were turned over sort of upside down. So he had severe deformities. It was sort of like club foot of the feet, and then reverse mechanisms on the knees. And the 2 boys pulling him were begging for money. I was a bit removed from the edge of the patio, so they weren't really approaching me. But when they looked my way, my natural instinct was to turn my head, to turn away. And that's just something I've kind of grown to do in New York City, where you see all these beggars and, the homeless people, and they always are with their hand out. And, you don't know who's real and who's a drug addict and just trying to get money to support their bad habit. So I sat there and I watched them go by, and the juxtaposition of my kind of self-pity party, as I call it. And the plight of this young boy was just really powerful, and it hit me. After dinner, I went up to my room and I sat there, and I couldn't stop thinking about this young boy. And I was fortunate enough to play varsity football, ice hockey, and lacrosse through senior year in college. And so I had many injuries, and I knew quite a bit about musculoskeletal issues. And I knew that I could have probably taken that boy to a local hospital and paid for a surgical procedure that would have corrected the disfiguration of the knees and the feet. I have no idea what it would have cost. It might have cost $5,000-$10,000 in Jakarta. I have no idea. But the reality is I could have charged that on my credit card.
Yeah.
And I chose to look away. And I realized that, I had the power to be a hero, to change somebody's life. And I did nothing. I looked away. And I just said, you know what? I don't want to be that kind of person. And so I vowed to myself that when I got back to New York, I would work on developing creating a vehicle that could bring the resources to the need and help these children who really have such a big mountain to climb, coming from an emerging market, coming from a very poor family, and then having a disability on top of it. So that was really the straw that broke the camel's back that inspired me to start A Leg to Stand On.
So, I mean, I think a lot of our viewers will probably empathize with your position. I think a lot of us do that, don't we? So the headline act from a semi-interested or involved outsider such as myself is Rocktoberfest, which obviously is all about the music. How did Rocktoberfest come about?
So let me back up and say Hedge Fund Rocktoberfest is our big marquee fundraiser for A Leg to Stand On every year. And we have it in New York and Chicago, and we have it every other year in London. It's just a really fun event where bands made up of hedge fund professionals. Today, it's broadened out to be really anyone in the finance industry, where they perform sets of usually covers. They will play some originals, but they play it in front of an audience of the peers. And their goal is to raise money and awareness for A Leg to Stand On. So the first event occurred because I've always been a musician. I've during college, I played in a band. In high school, I played in a band. Out of college in New York City, I played in a band. And our first hedge fund was actually named the Octave One Fund. An octave is a series of 8 notes, and it repeats itself. What's beautiful about it is that within that very finite structured universe of notes, there are an infinite number of possibilities. You're only limited by your ability to be creative. And so music has been a very big part of my life. And if I didn't have my arms or my legs, there's just no way I would have been able to do and have the experiences that I've had. And like all of us, we go through trials in our life. It may be, issues with our family. It may be a death in the family, or maybe a loss of a friend, or a failure that you have. And you have choices to use that negative experience to either consume you, or you can use it as fuel to build you up. And I used those kinds of experiences in high school, and I poured my frustration and my pain into the drums, and it was really a phenomenal outlet for me. So it's been a very important part of my life. And when I started Octagon, living in New York City, if you play the drums, you really aren't going to have any neighbors, or you're not going to be permitted to live in your building.
None that like you anyway.
That's right. So when our lease came up, I was looking for new office space, and I found a loft space on Fifth Avenue down on 29th Street. The building was more of historically a textile building, and it had very large floors, like 12-foot ceilings and big windows. And after about 6 p.m., all of the tenants would clear out because they were all textile companies. So working around the clock, like we do, because we deal in all the different time zones, I'm up until 1 a.m. dealing with Asia hours, just like, here you are in Australia. And so I decided to keep a drum set and some guitars and a bass guitar and some amps and PAs and keyboards in the office. So after everyone cleared out after 6, I could pick up a guitar and strum and play what I wanted to, or get on the drum set and bang out my frustrations. And really was an amazing situation, an amazing setup for us. And of course, investors would come in and they'd see all these musical instruments. And if you play an instrument, you get excited when you see other people's instruments. It's very they're very personal, like pets almost. And of course, many of the in mathematics and music are very correlated. There's, music is very mathematical. And so you'll find that there are a lot of people in finance that are actually musicians. So there was a surprising large number of investors that actually play music. And so we started having jam sessions at our office on Fridays. We called it Hedge Fund Happy Hour. And so we had this consistent group coming, and we'd have a few cocktails and play some classic rock. And it was just a great time. I happened to be during one of our breaks just commenting about how I was trying to find a unique way to raise awareness and funds for Leg to Stand On, because at that time it had just started.
Yeah.
And one of the members of the band, Chris Heisman at Lazard, said, well, why don't we send out an email and just have a show in front of all of our friends and see if we can get them to pay a cover charge. And I said, that's a great idea. He had a connection at the Chelsea Hotel, which is a famous hotel in New York City in Chelsea, where a lot of classic musicians have at one time or another stayed. Bob Dylan and Mick Jagger and Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's like, damn it. And so it was very appropriate for this occasion. So we rented out the hotel, the Chelsea Hotel, and we sent emails out to everybody in our email directory and said, we're called the Subscribers. We're a band made up of hedge fund guys. And when you invest in a hedge fund, as you well know, you subscribe in the fund. So that was the name of our band. And we said there's an $80 cover charge, and it's Friday night, come and have fun and open bar and support a great cause. And we talked a little bit about the cause in the email as well. Yeah. So the night of the show, we sold the place out. The place was just, people were dancing on the bar and on tables, and people were jumping in and trying to, sing in the mic with us. And it was a fantastic, fun event. And afterwards, all these people came up to us and said, we play in a band, or we're in a band, or, I play the sax, or I play the harmonica, or I play this, or I play that. Do you need a player? So the response was so overwhelming. We said, well, why don't we have another event at a bigger venue and invite a number of these bands to participate? And that was the birth of what today is called Hedge Fund Rocktoberfest. So that's the background.
That's fantastic. And I love the way it started at such a historic location as the Chelsea Hotel and went bigger, much like Dylan and the Stones in their own way.
So our next venue was the Planet Hollywood in Times Square. And then from there, we went to places like BB King's and Hard Rock Café and, some classic rock venues in New York City. And then places in Chicago, the City Winery, and London. It's really exciting, fun event.
And the good news is, of course, it has been a success. You're 20 years old in terms of Rocktoberfest this year, and you mentioned the number of children you managed to help around the world. So, how can people now help a Leg to Stand On going forward?
Well, I mean, obviously, the easy way to help is to donate funds, but we know that your money is hard earned, and we are grateful for any support. And even if it's just by word of mouth and say, hey, I saw a great cause and, want to share the news, or I find this very helpful for children, because children grow up, at least in the West and in our world, and certainly I'm sure in yours, and they're very blessed to have all these privileges and a very comfortable lifestyle, great healthcare, good families and friends, and good school systems. And we don't realize how lucky we are. And I'd like to stand as an opportunity to show children that life is not as filled with rainbows and sunshines as you might think. It's actually very difficult for many other children. And so we try to incorporate that and use it as a way to teach and as a way to engage children. And we will have children throw bake sales and fundraisers and bike-a-thons and walk-a-thons and things where they can contribute in one way or another. If people want to have a get-together and try to encourage friends to donate or to volunteer their time, we're just grateful for any support. So whatever form it takes is wonderful. We've had people have competitions like spin classes or workout classes where one team is playing against the other, and the winner, we'll get to choose the charity, all sorts of different things. So we just our website is the acronym for A Leg to Stand On. It's ALTSO.org. And you can go there and read more about the organization and find ways to contribute or help. And we'd be very grateful.
All I can say, Mead, is varsity hockey and football. You play in a band, probably played multiple instruments. I do feel as I've underachieved a little in my life. Yeah, I played a bit of cricket. Cannot play a musical instrument to save my life. I mean, the good news is, as yeah, we're very proud to be a media partner with A Leg to Stand On. And at our Chicago event, the Full Effects at FIA Expo in Chicago on October 3rd, we're going to be giving away 2 tickets to London or New York. If you enter the raffle, you could win tickets to what is a great event. And Mead, thank you for sharing your time and explaining to us what it is today. Congratulations on what you've achieved so far. And all I can say is all power to you in continuing this great work.
Thank you, Colin. I appreciate your support and kind words.
Thanks very much. The following screen will show you where you can actually support A Leg to Stand On. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll be back again soon. Thanks a lot.